hear what's going on. The giant that we're talking about tonight in this situation is of a man. But how many of you understand that your giant may have legs, hand, may be able to talk, may be able to walk, and then your giant may not have a voice in the natural, but it may have a voice in your head. So what we're saying and what God is challenging, like David says to the people, his brothers and everyone, here it is. They've all been trained for army. They've all been training. They're a large army. But what happened is the whole army is intimidated by one giant. And so how many of you understand that sometimes the thing that God is pushing you to or trying to get to you or trying to use you for, you seem to want to go for it, but there's that thing that causes you to fear. Maybe it's doubt. Maybe it's where your family has told you you would never amount to anything. Maybe your teachers told you you could never do it. Maybe your circumstances have said that in the past when you tried to excel, you had a hard time. But tonight we come to deal with the giant that's been dealing with you. It's time to face that giant, whatever it is, whether it was bad grades when you were coming up, whether it was family that did not accept you, whether it was friends that left you. Tonight we come to deal with the giant that keeps you stagnated, that keeps you in a place of difficulty, a place of despair, a place of safety. Because see, sometimes the reason you can't get to your blessing is because you like to be in the safe zone. But how many of you know sometimes when you face the giant, you got to get out your safety? As a matter of fact, most times when you're going to face the giant, you have to get outside of where it's comfortable. So we find here now David is listening to everyone and they're talking about, oh, do you see the giant? Have you seen this giant? Oh, we're afraid. And so here it is. David understands that the giant doesn't mean anything to him. He looks at the giant and he looks at a chance, an opportunity to take down the giant. And so he identifies the giant as an uncircumcised Philistine. And we're going to let her keep reading so I don't jump ahead of myself.
Verse 27. And the people answered after this manner, saying, so shall it be done to the man that killeth him. 1 Samuel 18 and 7. Or just
keep reading. I had to 37 on that one.
Okay. And Eliab, the oldest brother, heard when he spake unto the men, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David. And he said, why camest thou down hither? And with whom hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know thy pride and thy naughtiness of thine heart, for thou art come down that thou mightest see the battle. And David said, what have I now done? Is there not a cause? And he turned from...
Hold on. Why am I having her to read this? Because sometimes when you have made up your mind that I'm going to come and I'm going to fight the fight, no matter what it looks like, no matter what happens, the enemy will set up somebody that you value. He will set up somebody to come talk you down. He will set up somebody to get you off course. He'll set up somebody to distract you from your eyes being on the prize of taking down the giant. And so so here it is, the brother now begins to say, what you doing? Why you want to do this? Why? One, you may be jealous. Sometimes the giant comes in the form of jealousy. Sometimes the enemy will use the person that you're trying to impress, the person that you're trying to get approved by, to take you out of the fight, to get you off course. You may be running this race. You may have said, listen, in 2025, I plan on doing this, and this. And you may come in with a strong desire. You might have a plan. You might have written it down. You might say, listen, I don't care what's going to happen, but I promise you, as soon as you make up your mind, the enemy will send something that will try to get you off course. Sometimes we look at it and if you know or you have tried to do this thing before, a lot of times you'll find yourself saying, okay, by this particular time, I've always lost. Or by this time, I'm always going to get distracted. But I'm going to win this time. But it seems like as soon as you hit that time frame, or maybe even before, that's when the enemy will intensify what he sends your way to get you off course, to get you distracted from your eyes being on the giant that you have, that you're trying to take down. So I'm here tonight to tell you, no, this year, 2025, I'm about to be intentional about taking down the giant that's been tormenting me, the giant that's been in my family lineage, the giant that has stopped my parents, that stopped my sibling, that has stopped my church family, that has stopped me from reaching my goal. This giant must die today. All right, come on.
Verse 30. And he turned from toward another and spake after the same manner, and the people answered him again after the forward manner. And when the words were heard which David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul, and sent for him. And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight, and this...
Go ahead.
Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And Saul said to David, thou art not able to go against the Philistine to fight.
Here it is. You scared anyway. How you going to tell me what I'm willing to do? How is it that we allow people to get in our head when it comes to us dealing with our giant? I know that in the past I said I was going to school, and I went to school and I dropped out. I went to school and I went for 2 semesters the next time, and then I dropped out again. But this time I refuse to allow the giant to get the best of me. See, you got to look at your giant that you are dealing with, or that has dealt with you from your beginning to now. I don't know how long your giant has been staring you in your face. But tonight and in 2025, tonight God is saying it's time for you to face your giant and take it down. You got to understand that, listen, no weapon that's formed against me shall prosper. It cannot prosper. Greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. I don't care how difficult the giant has been. I don't care how many times you have went before it, and it seemed like you have had to run because the giant began to seem like it got even bigger. But tonight, this year, 2025, I come to set notice to the enemy that today, as of 2025, we're going to take down the giants. Every giant that's been opposing you. Every giant that's been dealing with you. Every giant that's been haunting you and taunting you. I'm telling you, there are some things that the enemy will allow you to go for and get, because he'll be like, oh, it doesn't cause me any problems. But he also understands there are certain things that if I allow them to get that, if I allow her or him to get to that level, then I'm in trouble. But you got to understand, I will no longer run from what it looks like, but I'll run into what I'm about to do. David is saying here, listen, y'all hiding from a giant. Y'all running from an uncircumcised Philistine. First of all, do you know who you are? Do you know who we got on our side? And I say that to you. Do you know who you are? Do you know whose you are? Why is it that you let life circumstance keep on coming up and stopping you and stagnating you and crippling you or causing you to run and hide? At some point, you must face the giant. At some point, you must come out and say, listen, what you doing? You got to have this conversation even with yourself. Keep reading. I know I hope I'm helping you already. I'm trying to make it a little bit more. But listen, if nothing else, I'm trying to give you some strategy. I'm trying to provoke you to thinking differently. I'm trying to provoke you to stop allowing life circumstances and situations to stop you from getting what God has for you, what he's created you to be, who he's created you to be from one year to the next. It's time out somewhere. It got to stop. Go ahead.
Verse 34. And David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing that he hath defied the armies of the living God. Verse 37, David said, moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with thee.
You understand? David looked at the track record. How many giants have you already beheaded? And why are you running from this giant? I know that the other giants may not have been as large. They may not have been as tall in stature. They may not have been as mean. They may not have thought like you. I understand that, but I also understand that if God gave you the power and the authority to take down a small giant, then why can't he take down the major giant in your life? It's time out for you running and hiding and ducking and dodging because the enemy keeps telling you who you're not. He keeps on reminding you of everything that you've been through in your life. He keeps on using your life story, the history of your life to terrorize you, to haunt you. Sometimes you go to bed at night and you go to sleep and you're awakened by the trauma that your life has experienced. But God is saying enough is enough. 2025 is over. You need to go ahead and face it and deal with it. Recognize it has happened, but it didn't kill me. And if it didn't kill me, then it means that I'm here to take it out.
All right now.
You got to understand your power. You got to understand the authority that he's giving you. You got to understand, I just said it a few minutes ago, but I'm going to say it again. You got to understand who you got backing you. David said, y'all worrying about the wrong thing. We're on the God side. We're on the one that brought us out of Egypt. We're on the one that drowned Pharaoh and his army. We're on the side where God has always allowed us to sustain. Listen, nobody can beat us unless God allows it. You got to understand that. I don't care what it is. I don't care who told you you couldn't do it. I don't care. Listen, if you dare to believe who God is, if you dare to trust God, if you dare to get back in the ring one more time, you know that the boxers, they get in there and sometimes they win. And I know last year everybody was watching. Some people say it was a stage fight. Some people say it was crazy. Some people say, oh, Mike was smart because he needed them 20 million. Whatever the reason is, forever he held the championship title. How many people he had knocked out? How many people he had fought and he had won? But you understand that even now, I understand the track record of my opponent, but I also understand the track record of my God. What is a giant for God? Don't you understand that God created the giant anyway? You say, Prophetess, oh, no. He couldn't have created the giant. He did. You say, what? The thing that you're afraid of. It could be life circumstances. It could be things that happen to you. I'm not saying that God caused everything to happen. I'm not saying that God made you go through it. I know sometimes the church, we like to say, God did it for you. He let you go through it because he got somebody he wants you to witness to. I don't necessarily believe that, but I believe that God allows things to happen and the enemy gets in there and he causes circumstances and situations and he causes you to experience pain. But I believe also that God will take the pain and turn it into your testimony. He'll take the pain and turn it into causing you to grow and be wealthy. But it comes in as a giant. But unless you face the giant will always keep you suppressed. The giant will always hinder you. The giant will always keep you down. The giant will always hinder you. But you have to face the giant. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine? You got to look at your giant. I told them in my class, I said, I want you to look at your own giant. I gave them an assignment. What is your giant? Your giant, a lot of our giant, it kind of comes in one big lump sum, but that thing can be broke down to a lot. One of the major components of the giant is fear. What is that thing that you fear the most? What is that thing that keeps you awake? What is that thing that keeps you from striving to move forward? What is that thing that won't allow you to try to go and excel? Are you afraid? Why are you afraid? If God be for me, then who can be against me? All right, go ahead. Go over to 18. This is the giant, and I'm going to try to, I'm going to make it work within the time tonight. So, but I hope even if I just teach it, I want to preach it, but even if I just teach it, I hope y'all get it. Go ahead.
1 Samuel 18:7. And the women answered one another as they played and said, Saul hath slain his thousands, and David his 10,000. And Saul was very wroth, and the saying displeased him. And he said, They have ascribed unto David 10,000, and to me they have ascribed but thousands. And what can he have more but the kingdom? And Saul eyed David from that day and forward.
Hold on. We're going to read those last two verses that I have there. But I need to finish up where I was because I know you're like, what does this have to do with anything? So I didn't have her to read all of it. Y'all know the story. If you don't, I'm going to give you the ending synopsis of the giant. So David takes his slingshot and he goes out and he faces the giant that everyone is afraid of. Now, mind you, he's young at this time. He's just a child compared to the people that are fighting and that are actually in the army. But he looks at the giant that's harassing his people, that's harassing his nation, and he decides that I got to face the giant. Everybody else is afraid. Everybody else is running, but we're going to take on the giant today. I'm going to be the one that looks at the giant and understand that the God that I serve is bigger and greater than the giant. Amen. And so then now we find that he's conquered the giant. And so now he's moving on to another phase in his life. And so God has now already anointed him to be the king. He's denied Saul. And so Saul he's just playing the instruments. And he's beginning to be around the king. And so the king sends him out to war. And he goes out to war. And now, mind you, the king has fought wars before. But he's never killed as many as David. So now David comes back from an army or from a fight, and he kills over 10,000, kills 10,000. So the people began to sing his praises, which now caused his boss to begin to hate him, to begin to deal treacherous with him, to begin to deal. So what happens is what was used to be my friend is now becoming a giant in my life. And so I'm saying this because some of you have come over the one hurdle of the giant and you thought, oh, okay, from now on life is good. And then maybe you have only slayed a small giant, but I'm here to let you know it's okay. Now that you're at another giant, you can't keep running. You can only run for so long. You have to deal with the giant. And so now David is just finishing up. And so now he kills him and they singing his praises. And it says, the Bible says, it causes Saul to eye him. In other words, Saul now begins to despise him, hate him, deal with him differently. Go ahead and finish reading where you were, because I don't have time to read everything. So listen, we're gonna read the part that we read. Go read it for yourself.
Verse 10, and it came to pass on the morrow that the evil spirit from God came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house, and David played with his hand as at other times. And there was a javelin in Saul's hand. And Saul cast the javelin, for he said, I will smite David even to the wall with it. And David avoided out of his presence twice.
And so I had her to only stop there because we don't have time. I'm telling you, from this point until several other points, David is now on the run for his life. He's trying to keep his life. Why? Because now Saul, who he initially went out and fought for, he is now after him. He's trying to take his life. Don't you understand that sometimes the enemy will cause those that you thought were for you to turn around and become a giant, will cause those people to turn around and be being used against you. Sometimes it's not even them. It's the enemy that's trying to stop you from going to your destiny. But I'm here tonight to say, no, don't look at them, but go ahead and face the giant that's trying to deal with you. That giant sometimes is rejection. That giant sometimes is unforgiveness. That giant sometimes is trying to be accepted. Sometimes the enemy will use these things as components to stop you from being who God called you to be. Stop you from reaching your greatest destiny. What is my greatest destiny? Your greatest destiny outside of living holy and going to heaven. What is it that God has put in your heart, your place? Maybe he's called you to be a doctor, a lawyer. Maybe he's called you to be a financial advisor. Maybe he's called you to be somebody that's in politics or that speaks to people, that influences decisions. But the enemy's attack on you is to make sure you never get there. Why? Because you're going to help change some stuff. You're going to help cause there to be a voice for God people. So the giant has to try to cripple you because he never wants it to happen. He never wants us to get free from some stuff. But you got to understand that I can't allow the enemy to shut me down. I can't allow the giant to destroy me. Listen, if I don't go ahead and move forward, if I don't face the giant, then I'll run and hide. I'll be in the wilderness forever. I'll be in and out of caves forever. I refuse to live my life hiding from the enemy. Hiding from what people said about me. You got to face your giant, people. What's the thing that you don't want to go and face? How many of you didn't grow up in Jacksonville and you say, I ain't going back to wherever I grew up from because I don't want to see them people? Because, they're going to say, oh, I knew you this and that. So sometimes we don't go places because we are afraid of what people going to say about us. We're afraid of how people will receive us. We're afraid of what they're going to think. But listen, I'm telling you tonight, whatever the giant is that keeps on destroying you, that keeps you from being your best, tonight you got to deal with it and take it down. All right, you finished that one. Go ahead and go over to 24. And so while she's getting it, and it's only a few pages over, and I'm sure she got it. You may have it, but I'm just going to talk right here. Why am I saying this? Why are we saying what God has given me? He said, don't you understand? A lot of times y'all look at David and y'all stop right there. And y'all say, oh, he killed the giant. And then all his sins and all his junk and all the stuff he did, that's what we really identify. Every now and then people talk about how he met with Saul. He said, but don't you understand? Saul became a giant in his life. Saul became one that he was running for his life. We skipped over several chapters, but he went several different places trying to hide from Saul because Saul was sincerely trying to take his life. And so here it is. He's now doing like you and I do. He's running from the giant that's in front of him. He keeps on running. The giant has him on a run. He can't be who God is calling him to be at this point because the giant got you on the run. But you got to come around and turn around at some point and talk to the giant. You got to deal with that thing. What has you on the run? What's stopping you from pursuing what God has called you to? What's stopping you from pursuing who God has said that you are? I know you get prophecy after prophecy, word after word, and God is saying, you're going to be this and you're going to do that. But I promise you, unless you deal with your giant, some of us, you will never excel and get what God has for you because it's in you dealing with your giant. You're going to have naysayers. You're going to have giants. You're going to have haters. And I know a lot of times we don't like using that word. But we would be lying to you. You'll be lying to yourself. But the thing is you can't be stagnated by the haters. You can't let the haters tear you down. You can't let the haters stop you from pursuing. As a matter of fact, you need to look at your haters as pushers instead of haters. I'm going to say that again. It's quiet. Stop looking at your haters as hindrance and look at them as a pusher. Because if you hating on me, then my job is to prove you wrong. My job is to look at you and say in your face, I'm going after what I'm going after. I'm going after who God called me to be because, listen, I refuse to let the enemy win. When is it that you're going to get sick and tired of allowing the enemy to win over your life, be in control over your life, get the last laugh in your life, get the last say in your life? When are you going to get tired of pleasing the devil? That's what we do. When we sit back and say, woe is me. Oh, you don't understand. Oh, I'm scared. And I'm talking to y'all. I'm talking to me too. How many of us should be farther in life? How many of us, God has gifted you with something, but you are too busy comparing yourself to somebody else. You're too busy looking what other people are doing and saying, they better than me. Listen, I don't care how good they are. Your people, the people that God has assigned to you, don't belong to them anyway. Why are you going to let them tear you down? We're going to get ready to go back to David, but he just brought it back to my memory. Not too long ago, I watched the movie. I think I watched it probably twice because it seemed like I kind of remember watching it. But it was a movie, and this lady, I think it was the movie about Adam C.J. Walker. That's who it was. She the one that did the hair right. That's who it was about. But the lady started doing her hair, and she said, let me help you sell it. And she's like, I don't want you on my team. They're not going to buy. And you, who are you? You just the person I'm doing it on the hair on. Like, listen, I was allowing you to use me. My hair started growing. And then you refused to allow me. So she got in there and started figuring it out for herself. And she started making her own stuff. And then the lady was giving her a hard time. And she decided, well, I'm going to move across the country, and I'm going to do it here. And then why? What happened? A lot of time is your giant, the enemy that told you you would never succeed, never amount to anything. Don't you understand? The enemy knows that if you get loose and you get away from it, you will conquer everything. You will achieve everything that God has created for you. So here it is. I left you with all bread like that. But you come, you set up a nice, pretty shop and everything else. Then I got to work double time. She ends up losing her house, the place that she's making her money. But listen, even in that, then now I got to work extra hard. But I don't let the giants hold me down. Yes, trials will come. Yes, tribulations will come. Yes, disappointment will come. But where's your tenacity? I know you understand, but my course director, when I was singing in chorus in middle school, he used to be in our face, and we used to be like, get out of our face. He was like, no, sing the note with tenacity. You got to sing it until somebody feel it. I'm going to say to you, you got to get some tenacity about what God has created you. You got to stop allowing the giant to cripple you. You got to stand up to your giant and say, what? That's all you got? That's your best shot? I'm not backing down. I refuse to let this thing destroy me. I refuse to let this thing cripple me. Go ahead, Sister Liz. I know I done jumped off to something else, but I'm telling you, when he was giving me this, I was like, God, like you really taking. It was a simple lesson. He was like, no, because it's time out, y'all. At the beginning of a brand new year, listen. The year belongs to you, but the thing is you got to deal with the giant. If you keep running from the giant, you will never conquer and overcome. Go ahead.
1 Samuel 24.
Uh-huh.
And it came to pass, when Saul was returned from following the Philistines, that it was told him, saying, behold, David is in the wilderness of En-Gedi. Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men of all Israel and went to seek David and his men upon the rocks of the wild goats. And he came to the sheepcotes by the way where was a cave, and Saul went in to cover his feet. And David and his men remained in the sides of the cave.
Hold on. Why am I having her to read this? I told y'all earlier. He got on the run. He began to run from Saul. He was living in the wilderness. He went to different cities, and they all began to turn on him. He even went to one city and won a battle, him and his people. But then Saul heard that he was down there, and Saul came there too. And I did not have time for us to read all of it, but it begins to say that David began to say, God, are you going to allow Saul to catch me and find me? Are you going to allow Saul to kill me? Are you going to allow Saul to capture me? And he began to say, God, what do I do? And so God began to say, yes, just as sure as you hear, Saul is coming. And so now get up and leave. But see, sometimes you leave and think that's the last time you're going to see your giant. But because you leave, don't you understand? In order to get where God is taking you, at some point you're going to have to deal with the giant. At some point you're going to have to deal with that thing that keeps on tearing you down, that keeps on hindering you, that keeps on blocking you, that keeps on stopping your miracle, that stopping your breakthrough. At some point you're going to have to pray until you can't pray no more. It's a giant, but it's worth coming down. And I'm going to let her finish reading, but I am going to say it, and y'all probably have heard me say this before, I'm sure. I told y'all, when I came home with my face skinned up, because I had been in a fight, but the boy didn't skin my face up. I was running across the street to get another lick. He got a lick, and he ran. And I was trying to get my next lick in. And I slid in the street and messed up my face. And my mother, being who she was and a fighter that she was coming up, she was like, what in the world is this? She didn't like it at all. And because she was saved and an adult, that's the only reason she didn't have that boy, because she was ready for him. And if she wasn't, my grandmother kept my brother from getting to him. Because when I got there, my brother and I weren't going to school anymore. My brother had advanced to another school, another grade. When I got there, my brother was like, show me where he at. I'm about to go. And my grandmother would not let my brother out the house. That's how bad it was. And so here it is. My mom says, and this boy, he shouldn't even been in the grade with me. He was behind a couple of grades. And he was a little bit taller than me and everything else. And so my mom was cleaning up my face and she's doctoring on it. And she's like, let me show you some stuff. And she was like, I don't care how big they are. You are not afraid. We don't fear nobody. Because listen, I don't care how big they are. They can come down. And so you got to look at your giant the same way. She said, as a matter of fact, she said, I'm a daughter of a man that did wood. My grandfather had his side business, and he had a pulpwood business, and he would go in the woods and cut down trees to sell her. And she was like, and what I understood is that the tree may be all the way up to the roof. She's like, but my dad taught me, he said, listen, that tree can't come down. You just got to hit him in the right place. And if you hit it in the right place, it will come down to size for you. And so she began to tell me, and she said, listen, these are some places that you hit them and they're going to come down. And then when they come down, then you go ahead and finish them off. And she said, I'm telling you, as a matter of fact, if you hit them right, they'll come down and you won't have to do nothing else. And she said, when they coming down, you just stand back and you do like my daddy them did when the tree was coming down. And she said, you say, timber, because you coming down. And so I'm saying you got to look at your giant and understand, I don't care how big you are, you can't come down. There's somebody always bigger and better than you. There's a God that I serve that created and that allowed this thing to happen, but you can't come down. Go ahead. And I know y'all help me. I'm working with what I got. But you got to understand, I don't care how bad the circumstance is. I don't care how much they did it to you. Yes, they did it to you. Yeah, they was wrong. Yes, it hurt. But listen, stop letting the hurt and the pain cripple you. Stop letting it paralyze you. Start allowing that pain to become your defense mechanism, your mechanism for dealing and hitting. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And the men of David said unto him, behold the day of which the Lord said unto thee, behold, I will deliver thine enemy into thine hand, that thou mayest do to him as it shall seem good unto thee. Then David arose and cut off the skirt of Saul's robe privately. And it came to pass afterward that David's heart smote him, because he had cut off Saul's skirt. And he said unto his men,
hold on. Why did I have him go there? I told you he was on the run. Here it is. My enemy is in my hand. Now, sometimes God will allow you to kill the enemy completely. And sometimes he'll allow you to face the giant and he won't let you take him out. But he'll make the giant turn around and have to respect you and bless you and deal with you. So now we find that God has allowed the enemy to fall in David's hands. I've been running. He's been running for months. He's been running for his life. He's been hiding. He's been dodging. He's been staying in the woods. He comes to the cities and then he has to go back out when he's identified. But you got to understand that God is saying, listen, you don't have to keep running. You just need to trust me. Your giant may be bigger. It may seem like it has more authority. It may seem like it has more power. But you don't have to fear the giant because I got you. I'm the one that called you to this. Why are you going to let it take you out? Why are you going to let it keep on discouraging you? I know they told you no last time. So what? Go to the next door. They might have kicked you out and ran you off the prophet. Go to the next one. So this thing that I'm trying to do, it may be bigger and brighter than anybody I know. As a matter of fact, I told you somebody else might be doing it. But what happens when your dream and your vision that God has given you and he don't give you no rest? Nobody's doing it. He's giving you invention and you're trying to figure it out. And nobody is cheering you on. Nobody is supporting you. Everybody's like, oh, that sounds good, but we're not interested. Well, I don't stop there. You're a giant. That's what I got to understand. You're just a giant, and it's just a matter of time before you coming down. Before God going to put you in my hand. Before he going to grant me the favor over you. Go ahead and finish reading, and then I'll finish up.
Verse 6. And he said unto his men, the Lord forbid that I should do this thing unto my master, the Lord's anointed, to stretch forth mine hand against him, seeing he is the anointed of the Lord. So David stayed his servants with these words, and suffered them not to rise against Saul. But Saul rose up out of the cave and went on his way. David also arose afterward and went out of the cave and cried after Saul, saying, my Lord the king. And when Saul looked behind him, David stooped with his face to the earth and bowed himself.
I'm ready to face my giant. I've been running from you. I'm sick of running. It's time to come face to face with it. I understand who you are because God anointed you. Even though God has rejected you at this point, God still anointed. And so David was smart enough to understand that the Bible says, touch not my anointed and do my prophets no harm. So we're not going to bother him, but I am going to deal with him. You got to sometimes understand that when you deal with your giant, sometimes you have to allow God to give you strategy. Sometimes you have to allow God to give you the right timing. The problem is, and why we lose a lot of times, is because we try to deal with the giant in our own strength, our own wisdom, our own knowledge, our own way, and that's only going to lead to destruction. This is why it's important that you pray. This is why it's important that you seek his face. You got to know and you got to hear from God when it's time to deal with your giant. Go ahead.
Amen. Verse 9. And David said to Saul, wherefore hearest thou men's words, saying, behold, David seeketh thy hurt. Behold, this day thine eyes have seen how that the Lord hath delivered thee today into mine hand in the cave. And some bade me kill thee, but mine eyes spared thee. And I said, I will not put forth mine hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. Moreover, my father see the skirt of thy robe in my hand. For in that I cut off the skirt of thy robe and killed thee not. Know thou and see that there is neither evil nor transgression in mine hand. And I have not sinned against thee, yet thou huntest my soul to take it. The Lord judge between me and thee, and the Lord avenge me of thee, but mine hand shall not be upon thee. As saith the proverb of the ancient, wickedness proceedeth from the wicked, but mine hand shall not be upon thee. After whom is the king of Israel come out? After whom dost thou pursue? After a dead dog, after a flea? The Lord therefore be judge, and judge between me and thee, and see and plead my cause, and deliver me out of thine hand. And it came to pass, when David had made an end of speaking these words unto Saul, that Saul said, is this thy voice, my son David? And Saul lifted up his voice and wept. And he said to David, thou art more righteous than I, for thou hast rewarded me good, whereas I have rewarded thee evil. And thou hast showed this day how that thou hast dealt well with me, for as much as when the Lord hath delivered me into thine hand, thou killest me not. For if a man find his enemy, will he let him go well away? Wherefore the Lord reward thee good for that thou hast done unto me this day.
It's only a few more verses, but I'm going to stop right there. And I know you say, well, that's not how it's supposed to go, prophetess. I don't know that I'm supposed to let thee. Yes, you do. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. And you got to understand, at this point, David no longer has to run.
Amen.
I dealt with the giant, and guess what? I got my hands clean. I dealt with the giant, and the kingdom's still going to belong to me. The reason you're upset is because God has already promised me what's yours. And so, but I got to understand that in order for me to get what belongs to me, I have to sometimes face my giant. I have to sometimes deal with the thing that has stopped me and that has hindered me and has tried to box me in and cage me. Why? Because it's a giant that's meant to destroy me, but you can't take away what God has already promised me. As a matter of fact, we didn't go through all of that, and I encourage you, read all of it. We talk about him, his son, Saul's son is the one that told him, yeah, my daddy is after you. He was the one that was the next in line, but they had already cut a deal that said, he said, listen, you can go ahead and have the kingship. What should be mine, I'll give it to you. Why? Because now I understand that God ordained you for it. And not only that, I'm going to be your second in command. So anybody that try to bother you, I got your back. Even if it means my daddy, which is your giant. I'm going to give you strategy. I'm going to give you insight. So sometimes you got to understand, it may be that you're to take your giant down completely, and that giant you will never see anymore. There may be times that God will allow you to deal with the giant so that the giant has to be subject to you. But whatever it is, you got to face the giant. You got to deal with the giant. Stop allowing the giant to hinder you. Stop allowing fear. Stop allowing your past. Stop allowing where you came from to stop you from excelling and winning and being who God called you to be. It's a giant that God is saying, enough is enough. It has hindered you long enough. 2024, it stopped you. 2023, it stopped you. 2020, whatever, it stopped you. 19, whatever, it stopped you. But you are no longer there. I have brought you to this time. I have sustained you. I have allowed you to live so that you can win. I've allowed you to live for my purpose. But what is it that's stopping you, that's causing you to run and cry? Deal with the giant. Tell the giant today is over. I won't run and cry no more. I won't give up no more. I don't care who said I couldn't do it. I'm going to show you I can do it. If I can't be wealthy one way, I'll be wealthy another way. But I'm going to do it. God is going to give me the tools. He's going to give me the insight. He's going to give me the strategy. And I refuse to allow it to stop me. Some of you, your giant is money itself. Money rules you. Some of it, money, you can't hold on to money. You're afraid of money. You're afraid of success because you mismanage it. But when are you going to face that giant and say enough is enough? I'm tired of being broke, busted, and disgusted. I'm tired of not having. I'm tired of running and crying. Listen, giant, you got to come down. God, you got to give me strategy and insight and self. You got to talk to yourself sometimes and say, you coming under subjection. We're not doing this no more. Enough is enough. I'm no longer going to be afraid of having money. I'm no longer going to be afraid of having my own business. Some of you, you don't want your own business because it's responsibility. The responsibility is real. I know a lot of times, and let me help all y'all out. Some of y'all that say y'all want to be wealthy, you don't really want to be wealthy. Oh, it's quiet. You don't really want to be wealthy. Why you say that, prophetess? Wealthy comes with responsibilities, and especially if you have any type of business. And I don't care. I ain't talking about it could be a grocery store and it could be a major 500 company. Guess what? You're working when nobody else is working. You're getting up before other people get up. Money calls for responsibility. But stop running from being wealthy because you don't want responsibility. Face the giant. I'm trying to make some of y'all mad. Some of you, your giant is laziness. You lazy. You don't want to do what it takes. Overseer told y'all, he heard on the radio, and he came home and asked me, he told me, what's lazy? Who's lazy? I was like, somebody don't want to do that. And they said, he's like, nah. He said, the man on the radio say, a lazy person is somebody that don't want to do anything. You can work every day. You can have a 9-to-5 job, and you can still be a lazy person. I was like, what? He said, a lazy man don't do nothing but want to go clock in, do what he's supposed to do, go home, and do nothing else after that day. But a person that's not lazy, they get out from work, they go, and they keep on doing stuff that's going to make them money. They go and find other things to do. They don't leave the job and just like go home and chill and just do nothing and wait on somebody to serve them. That's a lazy person. I know most of y'all like me. What? I'm tired. But you can't get ahead being tired all the time. The giant of just being likesy daisy, that is a giant. I know most of y'all be like, I ain't got no fear. Yes, you do. You don't want nothing. You just want everything to fall in your lap. But that's not how life is. If you're going to excel, if you're going to get what God has for you, listen, you're going to, especially if you want something, I'm finna really make a mess. Some of you are waiting on somebody to hand you out money for your dream. But you got to get up off yourself and go and make the money and let the money make you work for it. Let your money work for you. Stop waiting on other people to fund your vision. Stop being lazy. That's a giant that you're dealing with. You are afraid to invest your own money. Why should I invest in you? If you want to put your money where your mouth is, why do I want to put my money in it? I know it's tight, but it's right. This is facing your giant. Facing your fear. While I'm making a mess, I might as well make the mess. Some of us, especially in our culture, I ain't putting my money in no stock. I think I'll lose it. Yeah, and you're going to be broke. If you won't take a risk with any of your money, guess what? Your money will never make money for you. In any kind of investment, there's going to be a risk. And my thing is, even if you are afraid of the big investments, you won't even invest in the simple things. When is the last time you put some money in a CD? It don't yield as much interest as the stock market and the money market. But at least you're making a few dollars on your money. But no, you're trying to hold it too tight. You're trying to hold on to everything. Oh, and I remember when, and most of y'all, none of y'all, I don't even think my daddy was living when the Great Depression. Or whenever the banks went whatever. His parents was living. He said no. Yeah, I didn't think so. But his parents was living. The reason I know, because my grandfather did not like the bank. He kept his money at home. Most times he ain't have no money though. I know. Everybody, he didn't have no money. My grandmother, she kept her money at home, but she had money. She did literally put her money away at the house. When he passed away, she came out with quite a bit of money and was like, this is all I got. Y'all can bury him with this. He didn't have no money though. You're too afraid, and even if you gonna hold it, you ain't even trying to put it away. You trying to make sure nobody else don't have it. You're trying to spend it all because you say, I ain't leaving nobody nothing. I ain't leaving no. Well, I promise you, and I know I sound like my daddy now. I promise you, if you're afraid of leaving somebody something, then you ain't gonna have too much while you're here. What's going to happen to what you have built up? Face your giant. I'm telling you. And I'm not going to go into details, but I'm telling you, I know somebody that used to say, listen, I don't care because I don't have children. I don't have this and that. So whatever happens when I die, it's okay. And they left people in a mess when they passed. They were leading, but they left people in a mess because you are too busy worried about me, myself, and I. And God is calling you to more. He's calling you to leave a legacy. He's calling you to invest. He's calling for you to have something. Stop allowing the giant and the fear of being successful to destroy you and cripple you and stop you from having. Why? Why not you? Why not your children? Why not leave them something that will cause them to not have to work so hard? We look at everybody else and we look at every other race and they leave generational wealth. When their babies come here, they come here wealthy. But not you. You're trying to make sure. And let me help you out. Stop being afraid of learning new stuff. Dealing with new stuff. I know your mama them didn't teach you how to save your money. I know they didn't sit you down and do like the other cultures. But listen, it's time for you to change it and teach yours. Learn. If they don't teach you, I know everybody said don't go there. But listen, you got to start somewhere. The university or YouTube or Google. They'll at least give you a starting point. You might not know everything you need to know, but you can at least start. If you keep on reading or looking at enough stuff or reading enough information, it'll at least point you and get you to the right direction. Why are you afraid to understand something different? Stop letting whatever giant has been tormenting you that has been passed down from one generation to the next. And I know I'm using it as a broad term, but I'm trying to tell you, some of yours is big and some of yours is small. Some of it is what they did to you when you couldn't do anything else. I said this to somebody one time. I know that you said, oh, my mama wasn't this and wasn't that. Listen, you are alive talking to me and you grown now. I don't care how sorry she was. You love her for keeping you and allowing you to get grown. And I'm not talking about keeping you and raising you. I don't care if they didn't raise you. They didn't kill you before you were ever born. There's a lot of babies that was aborted. I love you for the jump that you did. You did a lot of jump, but I'm here. I'm breathing. I'm alive. And I'm now responsible for my own destiny. I can't control how you handle and what you did in my future and my beginning. But what my part is my part. And the giant that I have to deal with is I have to deal with not being afraid to do better than what they did. Not being afraid to go ahead and go for my dream. Because I cannot be afraid of whatever generational curse you left. I have to be willing to fight the curse, to go against the grain. I don't care what giant it is that you have experienced or that you have that keeps on holding you back, that keeps on pulling you down, that keeps on trying to sabotage you, that keeps on keeping you up at night, that keeps you crying. You have to face the giant. In 2022, God is, we in 25. Lord, no, we're not going back. In 2025, God is saying be intentional about facing your giant. I know y'all thought I was off of the intentional, but as he gave me the message, he was like, this goes along with being intentional. This is why it's at the beginning of the year. Because listen, what you do right now in this first quarter will affect your outcome in the last quarter. And if you don't deal with your giant and face him now, you won't get to the last quarter and with the winning on your side. And you have to, let me help y'all out, and I'm going to wrap it up, and I'm going to end with this. Because I've already had you out for a while. You have to embrace the small wins. Sometimes You can't get to the big giant because you won't even appreciate the small giant. Conquering the small giant. You have to look at what you've already taken down and deal with it. And David said, I killed lions and bears. These were small. This giant is taller than the bear and the lion. But he can come down. What's your bite? What bear and lion have you already conquered? That you refuse to look back at it and say, hey, if I can do that, I can do this. I know they told me I'd never amount to anything. They told me I was dumb, I was stupid, but you got a high school diploma. I don't care if you got out with a C. You got it. I don't care how you barely made it through. You got it. And I promise you, if you apply yourself, you can get another degree. You can get whatever else you want. You can conquer and get it. You may have to work a little harder than somebody else, but I promise you, if you put in the work, you can do it. Face the giant. Take the giant down. Look at your giant tonight. We're getting ready to close. And we're going to get ready to call this giant out. It went a little different from how I thought it was going to go. But I believe everything works together. I believe this is the way God wanted me to execute it. Because he talks to me one way. And sometimes it comes out a different way. But what God is saying is, if I could allow David to face his giant. One giant, I allow him to kill him and he never seen him no more. The next giant, I allow him to face him. You can't keep on running. Some things you got to deal with head on. You got to deal with it face to face. And once I deal with you face to face, then I can move on with my life. But as long as I keep on hiding, I will never excel. What giant is it you running from? What giant is it you letting stop you? Keeping you down. Face your giant. Stand to your feet. And we're going to get ready to pray. I want you to get into some praying mode. You won't be alone. Well, I'm not going to say that. Because I don't want y'all to limit God. Because some things you have to tear down. Some things you have to renounce. And so, for the first few moments, I want you to tear down some things. You know what giant it is that you deal with. And I didn't go down to breaking it down to small things. But some of you all, the giant is death. The enemy keeps telling you you won't make it to a certain age. Some of you, your giant is, I'm not good enough. Nobody loves me. Nobody cares. Some of you, your giant is, they always did me this way. Everything I've done, it always seems like it always ends up wrong. Whatever your giant is, I want you to deal with it. I want you to sincerely, close your eyes, and I want you to begin to talk to God and begin to talk to that giant and say, today, giant, I come for you. I come to let you know and set you notice that you will not win. I come to let you know that I come to take back my territory. I come to take a win. I come to destroy you. I come to dismantle all of your power. I come to snatch back what belongs to me. I come to let you know that you are uncircumcised Philistine. And I come to let you know that I'm coming to win. I refuse to do anything but win. Come on. Come on. Come on. I come for the giant tonight. God, you have, God, invited us, God, to tear down the walls of the giant. To face the giant and tear down the giant. To 2025, I come to let you know. Fear, I come to destroy you. I come to tear you down. I come to interrupt your plans. I come to dismantle your plans. I come to sabotage and destroy the plans of fear, of lack, of unforgiveness, of hatred. Come on, whatever your giant is. Some of you, yeah, you've been hurt. Yeah, you've been disappointed. But tonight, I come to let the giant know that you can't keep on controlling me. I won't continue to allow your tricks to control me and stop me from achieving, stop me from excelling, stop me from winning. Tonight, I come to set you know this giant. You got to die. Giant that hinders my wealth, that hinders my finances, that hinders my growth. I come to let you know you have no right to be here anymore. I come to let you know that tonight you're going to die. Giant, I come to set you know this, that you cannot achieve. You will not achieve. You will not win. Even the things that has happened to me, I will no longer allow this giant to torment me. It will, come on, you deal with it. Come on, deal with your giant. Come on, you got to get tenacious. You got to have tenacity. You got to get an attitude with the giant that keeps on stopping you, that keeps on coming to you in the middle of the night. When it seems like you are going up, you're excelling, you get to a certain place, and it seems like the giant will come out of nowhere. He'll use somebody to come and knock you back down. But tonight, I come to take on you. I come to take on my giant. I come to I come to renounce. I come to denounce. I come to strip the giant of all of his energy, of all of his strength. I come to knock the giant down to size where I can take the head of the giant off. Come on.
The harder they fall,
giant. The head of the giant, it has to die. It has to be destroyed. I come to destroy the giant. I will excel. I will get what God has promised me. I will be who God created me to be. I will be wealthy. I'm smart. I'm intelligent. Giant that tells me that I'm dumb, I'm stupid. I come to let you know, giant, you lie. You lie, and I will no longer allow your lies to destroy me, to control me, to sabotage me. Giant, you got to come down. Come down. Come down. Come on. Come on. Pull the giant down. Come on. Giant tonight. You must die. You must die. You all Shiba to Rebekah.
Jericho wall, we will come in your name.
Come on. Come on.
We stand on your word. What is loose in the heavens will be loose.
Come on.
Now we
giant of wickedness, whatever has been tormenting you, come on. I see it like how when you watch the Wizard of Oz and the Wicked Witch, she keeps on coming and all they had to do is throw water. Come on, I'm throwing the Holy Ghost on the giant that's been bothering me, that's been destroying me. Holy Ghost, I release you, God, to work for me, to fight for me. God, cause the giant to come down. Cause the giant to be reduced to size. Cause the giant to die. Cause the giant to lose any power. Any strength.
Gotta calm down when you pray.
God, right now.
When you pray.
God, right now. God, right now. God, we take down every giant. God, we renounce every giant, every generational giant, God called me to be. Fear of success, I come to destroy. Fear of education, I come to tear it down. Fear of health and healing, I come to tear it down. Fear of dying, I come to tear it down. I come to live. Fear of baby. Come on, whatever the fear is, fear of the bad doctor's report. I come to let you know I will live and not die. I shall excel. I will be a testimony.
Every child that gotta come down.
Fear of living holy, I come to tear it down. Fear of living holy, I come to let you know I will live holy. I will fight. I will be who God called me to be, who He chose me to be. Tonight, I speak to every giant. Let the people of God snatch down. I renounce and I say to the giant, tonight, your reign is over, giant. Giant, you must die. Giant, we bury you tonight. Giant, we bury you with the Holy Ghost power. We destroy. We interrupt your plan. We God, we thank you, God.
Just shout.
God, we thank you for the
Will you shout to
God.
they gotta
God, we thank you
come
because you
down.
loved us so much. God, you will bring it to
gotta
our
come
attention,
down.
our knowledge. God, now every giant
They
that has
gotta
been
come
tormenting
down.
us year in and year out. God, tonight,
gotta
we
come
renounce
down.
it. Tonight,
Every
we
giant,
denounce
every
it.
giant
Tonight,
gotta come
we cancel
down.
the plans of the enemy. Every giant that has
Gotta
been following us
come
from
down.
one year to the next, that has stopped
Gotta
us, that has
come
hindered us,
down.
that has blocked us in the past. Tonight,
Gotta
we say
come
it will
down.
not excel. 2025 is
Gotta
my year
come
to take over.
down.
2025 is my
Gotta
year
come
of
down.
success. 2025 is my year
gotta come
that the
down.
giant must bow. The giant
gotta
must
come
bow to
down.
me. The giant must honor. The giant. Shikibatoba. God, let 2025 be our year of conquer, our year of victory. Victory over the giant. Victory over the enemy. Victory, God. Let it be a year of victory and grace for your people. God, and we'll give you the glory and honor. In Jesus' name we
Giant of
pray. Amen and
fear
amen.
gotta come down. Oh
Yes, Lord.
yeah. Gotta come down.
Yes.
They gotta come down.
Yes.
They gotta come down. They gotta come down.
You ought to, I want you to get 3 people. I just want you to go shake hands
They
with 3
gotta
people
come down.
and say, my giant has died.
They gotta come.
I've beaten the giant. My
They
giant
gotta
come down.
come down.
My giant has got to come down. My giant
They
has
gotta
got to
come down.
My giant has got to
Oh,
come down.
they gotta come
Your
down.
giant has got to
Oh
come down.
yeah.
Your
They
giant
gotta come
has
down.
lost the fight.
Giant of sickness, they gotta come down. Giant of poverty, they gotta come down.
Yes.
Giant of setback, they gotta come down. Giant of low self-esteem, they gotta come down. Whatever your giant is, they gotta come down.
Yes, Lord.
Whatever your giant is, they gotta come down. Whoa, they gotta come down.
I know y'all probably like, really? But you ought to high five 3 different people and say, I'm a conqueror. 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 I'm a conqueror.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
They gotta come down.
Yes.
The giant's coming down. The giant's coming down. Yep. My giant's coming down. The giant's
Amen. We're
coming
going to ask
down.
you to please, if you would, let's get ready to give our offering. If you would, at least give 20 or 25 or as close to it. And if you were going to give more, please, let's give more. As a matter of fact, give an offering that proves that I'm a winner. An offering or a seed where you want God to honor your request tonight. To behead your giant. To destroy your giant. To uproot your giant. The giant cannot live. It must die. And as you get it, listen, as you get your seed, I want you to speak over your seed. Name your seed. Listen, if this is a seed